What is going on, everybody? VYPE Media Locker Talk live here on this Monday, December 21st, 2020. We're only 4 days away from Christmas, the big one. Also, 3 days away from the third round of Texas high school football playoffs starting as well as we go into the regional semifinals. A lot of exciting games last week. There was a 4 overtime game. 4 overtimes. Who's playing that much football? Bridgeland was. Bridgeland won that game 47-44. Connor Wigman to SMU commit. SMU signee Dylan Goffney. What a game. 47-44. Caney's not getting enough credit for that game. Caney was unbelievable. Unbelievable in that game. To push Bridgeland to 4 overtimes? Wow. We see people are jumping in. Thanks for joining us here on VYPE Locker Talk Live on the VYPE Texas YouTube page. Some new we're trying here. Go in that chat section if you have any questions or want us to talk about any certain games or anything like that during the show. Coming up in the show, exciting show, jam-packed. Katy Times sports editor Dennis Silva II will join us here in about 3 minutes or so. In about 3 minutes, he'll join us on the phone as we'll call him in to talk about Katy football, Katy Taylor, Katy Tompkins, 3 Katy ISD teams still in the Texas high school football playoffs this season. Then after him, we'll be joined by Shadow Creek head coach Brad Butler will join us live on the show as well. To kind of give you a rundown of last week, a lot of exciting games, a lot of exciting scores last week. Fort Bend Marshall wins 48-28. What do I think about Fort Bend Marshall? I'm starting to talk about him now. Fort Bend Marshall, unbelievable game. Unbelievable them. Roland Harvey, really good at quarterback. I really like Roland Harvey. You know, they got past PNG. They got past Port Neches Groves in the opening round, and people thought, well, they didn't beat PNG as bad as we thought. You know, they've been hanging, 48, 50, 60 points on teams. But Port Neches Groves a really good defense. Really good defense coming out of Southeast Texas. They've been traditionally a power coming out of Southeast Texas. Fort Bend Marshall's defense really good this season. They only allowed 20 points throughout the entire regular season. They're into the regional semifinals again. They are a team that's trying to go to 3 straight state championship game appearances. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun this week as Fort Bend Marshall moves on. But I really like Fort Bend Marshall. Really good team. Really good coach. James Williams getting his 100th career coaching victory this season as well. Congratulations to him. And they keep counting those wins up at Fort Bend Marshall. A lot of talent over at Fort Bend Marshall. Fort Bend Hightower 44-14 over Pflugerville Hendrickson last week. Hightower now 5-4 on the year. They were 3-4 entering the playoffs. They knocked off previously undefeated Port Arthur Memorial in the opening round. I talked to Coach Joseph Sam this morning, and he really likes the tenacity of this team, the resilience of this team. They played a tough schedule. Their 4 losses were all to state-ranked teams or teams that are still in the playoffs this season. So Fort Bend Hightower rolling in the playoffs. Spring looking really good, 31-14 over Klein Oak last week. Katy playing their first playoff game this season. They beat Lamar 60-7 last week. Shadow Creek, and talk about the Shadow Creek Sharks, a team, and we'll talk to Coach Butler about this. This is a team that they come into the season defending state champions, and they lose to North Shore in the opener. Then they lose to Bridgeland. They're 0-2, and people were wondering, okay, what's going on with Shadow Creek? And then, they had to go through the time where they had to shut down due to COVID. So they were out for, 2 weeks, couldn't practice, couldn't do anything, come back out of that. They end up getting themselves in position to win the district. They go into the final week of the regular season with a chance to win the district championship. They lose a heartbreaker to Pearland Dawson, 31-28 as Carter Brown, the Arizona State kicker commit, hit the game-winning field goal in that one. But since getting into the playoffs, they've averaged more than 40 points a game. They're coming off a 42-28 victory over CE King. And CE King's not a bad football team. They had 2 1,000-yard rushers coming out of that backfield. Gerald Wimbley is not a running back to mess with. He's a junior that's going to be really good next year as well for that CE King team. And, great season by CE King as they fall short to Shadow Creek, but Shadow Creek moves on. Katy Taylor beat Heights last week 28-13. Clear Falls over Beaumont Westbrook 53-36. Clear Falls also kind of a Cinderella program this season. They had never won a playoff game coming into this year. Hadn't won a playoff game. They were 0-2. 0-2 all time against in the playoffs. And now they're into the third round. into the third round for Clear Falls. They're the exciting program there. Few more scores. Huntsville defeats Barbers Hill 49-19. Tomball Memorial big over Oak Ridge 49-13. Crosby takes care of undefeated Texas 62-42. Manville beats up on Dripping Springs 38-21. Cedar Park over Foster 51-15. And then Frisco Lone Star takes care of Magnolia 40-28. So there's a few of the scores from last week. Few notes from last week as well. Spring is into the third round for the first time since 2015. Spring Lions rolling. Bishop Davenport has looked really good at quarterback. Really good dual threat quarterback. They'll take on DeSoto in the regional semifinals this week. That game is actually going to be at McLean Stadium up in Waco, Texas, right there on the Brazos. Scotty T, our producer today, big Baylor fan. Kind of a big deal for him. He's been to that stadium a few times. They're holding the doubleheader, Scott. You gonna make it up there for the doubleheader? I mean, you get Bridgeland, Rockwall, Heath, and you get Spring versus DeSoto. That's a good solid doubleheader that day. DeSoto did barely get out. Shadow Creek looking good. We talked about that a little bit. Tomball Memorial's into the regional semifinals, the first time in program history. They're still riding a undefeated season right now. Tomball Memorial, Joseph Manjack, the fourth signing with USC this past week. Big get for USC coming out of the state of Texas. They get some players here. They get some players out of Texas every once in a while. Fort Bend Hightower, we talked about them. They're in the third round for the first time since 2011. They get Manville this week. Your showdowns for this week. Katy takes on Shadow Creek. Tompkins takes on North Shore. Spring versus DeSoto, we talked about that. Clear Falls takes on Katy Taylor. Crosby is going to take on Huntsville this week, and Hightower is going to take on Manville. Also, Tascasita is going to take on Ridgepoint as well. So those are some of your regional semifinals matchups coming up this week. Well, let's go to the VYPE hotline. We're going to call Dennis Silva II. We're going to get him on the phone here. See if he answers the phone call on the VYPE hotline here.
Josh.
It is Dennis Silva II. He picked up the phone. I'm so excited you answered the phone today.
I appreciate you. Thanks.
All right, Dennis Silva II, Katy Times sports editor, joining us here on VYPE Locker Talk live on our YouTube page. And Dennis, Katy ISD's got 3 football teams into the third round of the Texas High School football playoffs. This is a big year for Katy ISD. You had Katy versus Seven Lakes in the regional final. You had Seven Lakes go and win the 6A volleyball state championship, and now you got 3 football teams into the third round.
Yeah, and I think you look at last year, it was the same case as well, where Tompkins and Katy and Taylor all made it this far, and then Taylor ended up advancing, going to the state semis. So a nice couple of years for Katy ISD football. And you mentioned the Seven Lakes volleyball team winning state. A good year, obviously, in a year of so much uncertainty and not knowing if there's going to be a season and whatsoever. But so far, so good. Fingers crossed, I'm sure Debbie Decker and her athletic staff over there are just, counting their blessings as far as being able to get these games in and the success they've had before. But yeah, another good year for football, and Tompkins, Katy, and Taylor all still alive.
Yeah, so let's talk about Tompkins. You were at the Tompkins Sci Fair game. Did you expect that game to go the way it did? Because I did not see Tompkins being up 44-7 at halftime, or 41-7 at halftime.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see that coming, but I also definitely expected LJ Johnson to play, and I think that's a huge deal. I mean, you're talking about arguably the top running back in the Greater Houston area for the class of 2021, a 4-star recruit. Someone's going to get a stud in their backfield, and he was apparently sick. Dressed out, was at the game, just didn't play. And I think, I'm not sure how well in advance Sci-Fair knew. Maybe they did it. I don't think Tompkins really had a good idea that he wasn't going to play, but I think he saw just obviously how important he is. When you take someone like that out of the offense, it's going to change everything. And so Sci-Fair hung in there. They were up 7-3 after the first quarter, but that second quarter where Tompkins put up 38 points, 24 coming off turnovers, back to back to back, that can kill a team like that when you don't have your star go-to guy and can't sustain drives and you're punting every series. So didn't expect it to go that way, but I mean, it's also Sci-Fair didn't have their best player. So Tompkins played great, don't get me wrong, but I think everyone expected a better game, but I don't think anyone expected LJ Johnson to not play. And I think when that happens, I mean, you can't take away a team's best player. Tompkins is going to eat that alive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you take LJ Johnson out of the mix, it's going to make a big difference. And you talk about that defense. I mean, to score. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, Colby had himself a game. I mean, not only you get one scoop and score, you get two scoop and scores, and then the next play was a pick six. I mean, has this Tompkins defense been this good all season, or is it just? I mean, they just hit it right on those 3 drives where they were able to turn the mistakes by Cy-Fair into points.
No, they've been good all season, and it starts really with Colby Porter in the backfield. He just has a knack for making plays. Him and Trevor Woods are 2 of the best. You can put them anywhere. You can make them play against a run, against a pass, drop back in coverage, put someone linebacker if you need to. They're just going to find the ball. And he mentioned we were just joking around about him giving the 2 fumble returns for touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He mentioned just him playing baseball when he was a kid. It was like scooping up a grounder. And I think these guys are just like natural athletes to where they have skills that are applicable to like anywhere you put them in any sport, pretty much. Like those kids like that are like they're amazing to me. Just the fact that they can put them anywhere on the field, they're gonna make a play. You can put Colby anywhere on the field. You can't do that with every kid, but the kids you can. That's pretty special. And Tompkins has that in Colby, and everything around him just flows. He's such a leader back there, such a captain. Experience, been a varsity player since his sophomore year. I think he had 2 takeaways the first playoff game. Then he had 2 more in the second game. So now he's got 4 takeaways himself, just alone in the postseason. Pretty special player. And then their defensive front, though, they put so much great pressure on the quarterback. Bassey up front and some of those other guys, Justin Bravatt, are guys who can get to the quarterback, and then you make the quarterback make rush decisions like Cy-Fair's did, and the secondary is going to be able to make some plays. So I think this is something they've been doing all season. Their defense has been tremendous, and they were good last year. They are great this year defensively.
Yeah, we talk about Katy. I see we talk about Katy teams, and the Katy defense gets a lot of nod, and rightfully so. They've got a lot of D1 prospects on that defense and things like that. We knew they were going to be going good coming into the season. Now the big question for Tompkins is, now this week you get North Shore. That's who's next. They knew that. Yeah. And this has been a big year for Tompkins. Let's be honest. I mean, you beat Katy for the first time in program history. You win the 6A district championship. You roll into the playoffs. You beat Fort Bend Travis 42-10. You beat Cy-Fair 51-28. Well, here comes North Shore. And we all know about North Shore. We know what they're going to bring. It's going to be Demetrius Davis. It's going to be Shadrach Banks. It's going to be this slew of wide receivers that they have. Their defense is very disciplined. Jalen Milroe is a big-time athlete, but, this is a disciplined defense that they're not going to let Milroe just run all over them because they know how talented he is. Tompkins North Shore, I mean, this is a big game. You got the Auburn commit in Demetrius Davis, or signee in Demetrius Davis. You got the Alabama signee and Jalen Milroe. I'm sure you're going to be there spending your Christmas Eve afternoon watching that game. What do you expect out of this game? And, I mean, can Tompkins continue this amazing season and knock off the back-to-back defending state champions in North Shore?
Okay, so I think it's possible. I think they are a good enough team with enough talent and well coached to where they can beat North Shore. I do think a lot has to go their way. It has to be pretty much a perfect game plan, which is possible because, again, they do have the talent and the coaches. So I think for Tompkins, it'll come down to the offense. Can you sustain drives? Can you get the running game going? And can you keep Demetrius Davis on the sidelines? Can you milk the clock? Can you make plays? Can you give your defense a lot of rest to where whenever they do face that North Shore offense, they're fresh and they're ready to go? Mm-hmm. That's going to be key to me. I think, and I wouldn't want any other quarterback really doing that or managing that type of game plan than Milroe. I think he's this year he's just so poised and coolly confident. He doesn't run a lot. He doesn't run as much as people think. He is a dual threat talent for sure, but he's picked and chosen his spots as far as when to run. But when he does run, they're for big gains. They're often for touchdowns. It's the way he picks apart a defense and the way he gets his receivers open. and the way he, as far as selling the play action and all that kind of good stuff, he's really doing a tremendous job managing games and leading his team on the field. If he can keep that going, if he can keep the offense on the field, milk some clock, get Marquise Shoulders and Sherman Smith going in the backfield, wear down that North Shore defense, keep it close to where if it's 14-13, 14-7 in the fourth quarter, 21-14, you have a shot. I think Tompkins has a real good chance. You cannot let North Shore get off to a fast start, put up a 21-7, 21-0 first quarter and expect to, hang around. That's not going to happen. And they had some issues with slow starts. Speaking of Tompkins, earlier this season, they've seemed to solve that for the most part, especially in the playoffs. But even through the end of the regular season, where they started off getting to faster starts, and they kept mentioning how big that was for them. They wanted to get out to 14-0, 21-7, 28-10 leads, and they can roll from there. That's what they need to do. They need to do that. They need to keep that going, get the run game going, establish Milrow as a pocket presence to where you can also, as a pocket presence and as a runner, so you have to count for both, and keep that North Shore defense on the field, keep Davis watching from the sidelines. If they can do that, I think they have a really, really good shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a great game. If North Shore comes out of this game and they blow the doors off of Tompkins for some reason, like if this is just a runaway game by North Shore, no one's stopping North Shore from winning another state championship.
No,
they're not. I mean, Region 3 is one of the toughest regions to get out of. And Katy Tompkins, it's going to be a fun game. I mean, if you're sitting around Christmas Eve and you're like, what should we go do today? You're near Legacy Stadium. Like, if you're within driving distance, like I'm talking like an hour.
Yeah.
You're making that trip to go watch this game because there's a lot of college talent across the field. Before we let you go, we got to talk about the other teams. Katy takes care of Lamar last week. We kind of expected that. They hung 60 points, which was impressive. Their run game has been really good. Jalen and Seth Davis, they both over 1,000 yards on the season. The defensive unit only gave up 7 points. That came late, so more likely, it was the second, third string guys out there at that point. They get a challenge this week. It's Shadow Creek. And, it's Kyron Drones, the Baylor signee. It's, CJ Guidry at wide receiver. It's that defense of Shadow Creek. Shadow Creek has won a state championship of recent. Katy's trying to get back there and win another one. What do you see in this game? Because, Katy last year kind of ran into a similar team in North Shore where you had an athletic quarterback that can run and throw the ball well. Is this Katy defense good enough? And also, is the offense good enough if they get into a back and forth with Shadow Creek to overcome that and move on to the state quarterfinals?
Yeah, so I'm really, really excited for this game too. Maybe even a little bit more excited than North Shore and Tompkins because I think this one's as much of a coin flip where you have a Katy defense that in the past generally has struggled against a dual threat quarterback. Like you speak of Demetrius Davis in the past. Drones is a similar type of talent where he can do things with his arm or with his legs. But you have a Shadow Creek defense that struggles against the run. They're not that strong against the run. Mm-hmm. So, really, like it comes to which defense is gonna show up. Like, is Katy has a tendency to struggle against speed and length and height from opposing receivers, and they can struggle containing dual threat quarterbacks. But also Shadow Creek, are they going to be able to struggle a potent run game from Katy that has two guys they can go to? And they're very different. You have the workman-like Jalen Davis, who's just a bull right up the middle, and he's strong and quick. Then you have Seth Davis, who's just a speedster, dynamic, electric, quick as can be. Just a sophomore. They just two different styles that I'm not sure a lot of teams, one, prepare for, and two, are used to seeing during the regular season. Man, it's hard for me to pick this one because I think it just comes down to so many elements as far as Shadow Creek's obviously been a state, but that was that was a different classification. It's not 6A. Yep. They've had 3 losses, but I'm impressed by their schedule. North Shore, Dawson, and Bridgeland are those losses. That's impressive. And then Katy, this is their first real test since Tompkins, and that game seems like last year. That it seems like it's been months since he played Tompkins, when it really was, I guess, late October.
Yeah,
right?
like a month and a half ago. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying when it feels like that game was forever ago. It feels like it was forever ago that Katy lost that game, and after that game, Katy, I mean, they were mad. They were mad.
Yeah,
They took it out on some people, and now, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Katy has to get through Shadow Creek. I mean, that is.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, if they get to the state quarterfinals, and we're gonna jump to that now, Katy Taylor takes on Clear Falls, and Clear Falls having an historic year. They're into the third round for the first time ever. Katy Taylor, of course, had that amazing run last year. Can Katy Taylor make it into the state quarters, and potentially, Dennis, we could have Katy versus Katy Taylor versus 5 in the state semifinals.
How crazy would that be? Yeah, in a crazy year, how crazy would that be? But yeah, speaking of Taylor, by the way, Clear Falls is having a tremendous year. I think what's going to matter in that game is experience. I think they're relatively two very even teams, but Taylor has been here before, and I think that matters. I think I was looking it up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Clear Falls before this year hadn't been to the playoffs. Had been to the playoffs just twice since 2013.
Yep. Been there twice and never won a playoff game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think experience is going to matter in this one. I think Taylor just has too many playmakers all over the field, defense or offense. Anyone can make a play. I think that's going to matter. So I think Taylor will get there. I think Taylor's going to get past Clear Falls. Katy, I think, of course, can definitely get there. I think they'll have a tougher challenge in Shadow Creek, and I think they'll have to shore up some of those issues, some of those things that have been issues in the past, such as in the secondary, covering those pure athletes and covering dual threat quarterback. It'll be interesting to see how they defend drones, or how their coverage is against drones this time compared to maybe how they handled Milrow. Like, what adjustments are made? Maybe they just stick with the same game plan, and they're like, you're gonna have to beat us at what we do. Maybe that's it. Or maybe they make adjustments and they learn from the Tompkins loss and the North Shore games of the past, playing against Davis, and they fine-tune some things, which would be interesting. I'm just really excited for Katy's Shadow Creek. I think that's such a, coin flip up in the air, like, could come down to the very last possession. I'm really excited for that game.
Yeah, that game going to be at Freedom Field on Saturday at 1:00, and then Tompkins North Shore. That's going to be Thursday at 1:00. So good for. Did you just request that schedule? You say, hey, can you book one game on Christmas Eve during the day and then one the day after Christmas, just so I can be at both of them?
Hey, I tried to get Katy Shadow Creek on Christmas Day. They just weren't having it.
UIL said no.
UIL said no, let Santa have his day, and then Katy and Shadow Creek can have their day Saturday.
Exactly. All right. Well, he is Dennis Silva II, good friend of us over here at VYPE. You can follow him on Twitter at DenSilva2. Does an amazing job covering Katy ISD, and a busy week for you, Dennis. And we look forward to your coverage of the 3 games coming up this weekend. And thanks for always helping us out over here at VYPE.
No problem, bud. Appreciate you.
All right. You have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right. That was Dennis Silva II. Dennis Silva II joining us, talking about those 3 big games here on Locker Talk Live. Big appreciation to him for joining us on the show. We're gonna keep the hotline going. We went a little long with Dennis. I knew that was gonna happen because we like talking. Me and Dennis talk a lot throughout the year, so always great having him on the show. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not yet. Be sure to subscribe, as we're putting out a bunch of content. And we're starting to do more of these live shows. We're enjoying it. Here, Scotty T producing this one today here from the VYPE Media offices. Now we're going to try to get Brad Butler, head coach of Shadow Creek, on the phone. Calling in the head coach of the Sharks to see. I think they were practicing this morning, so we'll see if we can get him on the phone here on the VYPE hotline. If not, we can find some more things to talk about, as always.
Hey.
All right, head coach Brad Butler, the head coach of Shadow Creek Sharks, joining us here on Locker Talk Live on VYPE. Coach, how's it feel being practicing the week of Christmas? That's a new phrase, right?
It's always a great feeling, and I tell you what, I told the kids earlier, man, we are so fortunate with beautiful weather. It was incredible this morning.
Just talk about for your team, Coach. I mean, this season, you probably would never have scripted it like this at all of a regular season. Your season starts late. You really have no off season. You're coming off a championship year. Your team suffers those 2 losses to open the year, and then your team had some COVID cases come through. It had to shut down for a couple of weeks, and then came back from that, where it was in the running for the district championship. Played that final game against Dawson, lost that one close, and then had to sit for a week before your first playoff game. How have you kind of navigated this season, and now y'all are into the third round of the playoffs?
It has been a crazy year, and I know all of us are just thankful that through the good and the bad, we've been able to continue to have a season. And you're right. We had a strange off season last spring, and then opening up with 2, really, really good football teams, and coming up a little short in those games. And we get hit with about a 2-week quarantine. And when we came back, we hadn't practiced in 2 weeks. And so we've just kind of been on a roller coaster. And, I really feel like we're kind of at a point here to where things are starting to come together for us as a team.
You just talk about, the last 2 weeks, your team has looked really good. 55-6 over Clear Creek, 42-28 over CE King last week. What did you like the most that your team did last week against CE King? Because you mentioned you feel like this team is things are starting to click right now.
Yeah, throughout the season, we were just and we weren't doing a great job of putting all 3 phases of the game together at the same time. And I think last week, CE King, tough ball team, very, very tough physical game. And, defensively, we were able to come up with some big plays and a couple of 4th down stops. And offensively, I think we're starting to kind of get untracked and feel good about where we are right now.
So heading into this week, you get Katy the day after Christmas. And of course, UIL has it where you can't actually see the guys on Christmas Day, shut down facilities and things like that. How do you get the guys ready for this Saturday game coming up this week?
It's a little bit unprecedented the way it's all unfolded, but I think you just mentioned Katy, and you don't have to do a whole lot to try to get your team motivated. We've got a lot of respect for their program, and they do such a great job there that they definitely get your attention. So I think our guys will definitely be clued in and ready.
And just talk about that. And playing a team like Katy, y'all have played some premier programs. Your first years of varsity team, you played Highland Park for the state championship. So this team, this program knows how to get ready for a program like Katy. When you look at them and feel, on film, the one thing that pops out to me is Jalen and Seth Davis coming out of the backfield, who have both rushed for over 1,000 yards this season.
Right. Offensively, just their consistency. And I think with Katy, it usually all starts up front. They do, such a great job with their O-line, and usually some pretty good sized guys that well. Usually there's a back or 2 back there that really do a great job of running behind those guys. And so they present a lot of problems and just consistency on offense that they bring. It's difficult to defend. They just lean on you.
And talk about your guys. The last time I saw your team, it was the Dawson game. And, and it seems like since then the offense has really kind of exploded for y'all. Talk about the play of Kyron Drones. I know he had that 95-yard rushing touchdown last week. Did he need a little bit of oxygen on the sideline once he got over there after that race down the field?
He popped through there in the middle, and a couple of guys bounced off of him, and he got untracked and got the long way. That was a great, exciting kind of was a kickstart for us in this. He for the last 2 years, and I think just he is getting at this time of the year. And like I said earlier, I know that we were ever hitting on all cylinders, and we've got some complete games together and see where it takes us.
All right. Shadow Creek takes on Katy this week. Freedom Field Saturday at 1:00. That's got to be fun for you. I mean, the fans. I know it's limited attendance still, but you get to play that Freedom Field. You pretty excited about having that home playoff game this week?
Yeah, I really didn't. With the way this is being around the Christmas break and everything, it's a lot of people are going home and home. At least these Houston area schools, and so it's not something anticipated happening, but it worked out, and we're excited to be at home in a really neat facility.
All right, Freedom Field on Saturday, a place to be. Katy takes on Shadow Creek. Coach Brad Butler. Coach, appreciate the time as always, and thanks for coming on, and wish you the best of luck on Saturday when you take on Katy.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.
All right, that was head coach Brad Butler of the Shadow Creek Sharks. Kyron Jones signed to Baylor. Going to be one of the premier players to watch on Saturday that Katy is going to have to stop. Let's go down kind of the matchups this week as we put a wrap on this VYPE Locker Talk Live. 6A Division I, your matchups are Tompkins takes on North Shore. That's going to be a really good game. Athletes all over the field. I'll pick these as we go. I'm going to go North Shore. I think North Shore too much to handle in this one. I think North Shore wins this game over Tompkins. It's going to be a close one. North Shore wins, goes on to state semifinals. Ridge Point takes on Atascocita. Craig Stump and company. This is the sixth straight year that they have gotten to this point, to the regional semifinals. Atascocita, really good team. Ridge Point, really good team, as well as Bert Emanuel Jr. over there at quarterback. Keith Jackson running for 4 touchdowns last week in a 34-21 win over Jersey Village. Big win for them. 4 touchdowns for Keith Jackson. Get the Jackson train going. Ridgepoint takes on Atascocita. I'm going to go Atascocita in that one. So I got Atascocita North Shore in the state semifinals next week. Down in Division II, Duncanville takes on Westfield. Duncanville, of course, back-to-back state runners-up. They take on Cardell Williams and company. Duncanville, I think, too much. I think Duncanville too much for Westfield. Westfield's defense is really good. I just don't think they've got enough to get past Duncanville on offense, so Duncanville moves on. DeSoto takes on Spring. I'm going to take the flyer here. I'm going to go Spring Lions win this one over DeSoto and get to the state semifinals. Bishop Davenport had over 400 yards of total offense a couple weeks ago. Over 450 yards. Throwing the ball, running the ball. They won the district this year. They beat Westfield. I'm taking the Spring Lions. Spring moves on to the state semifinals in 6A Division I. Go down to 6A Division II, Katy Shadow Creek. Who's going to win this one? Just had Brad Butler on the phone. I'm going to go Shadow Creek, the Sharks. Down in the Shark Tank, home game for them. Kyron Jones seems to be going. The offense seems to be clicking the right direction. Katy's offense is really good in the run game. If Shadow Creek can take one of those runners away, I think that Shadow Creek wins this game. They've been averaging 40 points. It's going to be a big test for Katy. I think Shadow Creek moves on. Katy Taylor takes on Clear Falls. Katy Taylor, I think, wins that game. Clear Falls, great story this year. Reached the third round for the first time ever. I think what Dennis Silva II said earlier, too much experience on Katy Taylor's side. You have Jay Jensen at quarterback. You got Casey Shorter, who's signed to Army in the backfield. You got 2 big offensive linemen on the line in Hayden Connor, who's signed to Texas, Bryce Foster, who's signed to Texas A&M. Defense is good. Trevor Woods anchors that defensive unit. He's signed to Colorado. This is a really good Katy Taylor team. Plus, Katy Taylor versus Shadow Creek in the state semifinals, that would be a lot of fun. That would be a fun game. That's where I'm going on that one. Cedar Hill takes on Tomball Memorial this week. Tomball Memorial having a great season. Cedar Hill having a great season. They beat Tyler Legacy 45-0 last week. That's a beatdown. Cedar Hill playing really good football. Tomball Memorial taking care of Oak Ridge, obviously 49-13. I think this might be the end for Tomball Memorial. Prove me wrong, Wildcats. You did it. You did it earlier this season. You beat Beaumont Westbrook when I said you wouldn't beat them. But I'm going to go Cedar Hill. Moves on to state semifinals. A close game. Tomball Memorial really good, but I think Cedar Hill a little too much in this one. Rockwall Heat takes on Bridgeland. Bridgeland escaped in a 4 overtime game last week. They were worn out from that one. 4 overtimes. But Bridgeland, really good team. I'm riding with the Bears. Going with the Bears. Bridgeland moves on to the state semifinals in 6A Division II. 5A Division I, Fort Bend Hightower takes on Manville. They played earlier this season. Talking to Coach this morning. He felt like that Manville game kind of got away from him late. Felt like it got away from him late a little bit. Fort Bend Hightower, really good season for the Hurricanes. They were 3-4 coming in the playoffs. They're 5-4 now. I think Manville too much. I think Manville gets to the state semifinals. They got a good run game, good quarterback play from Gabriel Larry. Now on the other side, Cedar Park and Canyon. Cedar Park is a machine this year. Cedar Park beat Foster 51-15. Cedar Park, I think, gets to the state semifinals. Cedar Park versus Manville, that'd be a lot of fun. That'd be two really good football teams going against each other. Two really good football teams. That's all the Houston teams in 5A Division 1. 5A Division 2, last stop. Crosby takes on Huntsville. Crosby's a really good team. Reggie Branch, Deniquez Dunn in the backfield. They've combined for over 4,000 yards of offense. Those two in the backfield. They get a really good Huntsville team. Huntsville's been historically the team that makes these deep runs. They always make the deep run. They always get to the semifinals. They're always the team that Fort Bend Marshall has to get past. They got past them a couple years ago to get to state. Huntsville beat Barbers Hill 49-19. Who do I go with here? Crosby? Huntsville?
I like Crosby.
You know what? Code Red, baby. I'm going Crosby. Crosby beats Huntsville. They move on. I think Deniquez done. Reggie Branch, too much. Crosby back into the state semifinals. On the other side, Fort Bend Marshall takes on Needleland. Fort Bend Marshall all the way. Let's have Fort Bend Marshall versus Crosby in state semifinal. I like it. Fort Bend Marshall, they know how to win. They know how to win these games. They know how to make deep runs in the playoffs. They've been to state 2 straight years. James Williams is a heck of a coach. Roland Harvey is an athlete at quarterback. Their defense has only gave up 20 points in the regular season. They gave up 28 last week. They gave up 14 the week before, but they're scoring. They scored 48 points last week against Montgomery. Fort Bend Marshall beats Needleland. I take that. Fort Bend Marshall Crosby, state semifinals. That's what I got. That is it, folks. That is the wrap on this one. Locker Talk Live for the first time on our YouTube page. Scotty T, the producer. Great job, Scott. We made it. 37 minutes and counting. No one knew I could talk that much about Texas high school football, right? I mean, was that the number? Did we think 30 an hour? Do you think we could have gone? I could have had some more guests. we could keep going. I was about to have Scott with the headlines here in a minute, but that's not fair. Big matchups coming up this week. Be sure to follow us at VYPE Houston for coverage throughout the week. Tommy Yarish, one of our VYPE ambassadors, he's going to be at 3 of these games this week. He's going to be covering North Shore versus Tompkins, the Bridgeland game, and the spring game live up to the second highlights of those games. Live highlights coming on our Twitter. So if you're still on Christmas Eve, just sit there and scroll. Keep it scrolling. Tommy Yars, VYPE ambassador, doing an amazing job helping us cover Texas high school football playoffs this season. So he'll be at those 3 games. Will be at Tompkins, and then we'll be at the 2 games in McLean Stadium, the Bridgeland game, and also the spring game as well. So be sure to watch that and watch our VYPE.com for photo galleries as well. Playoff centrals throughout the week. And we're ready. We're ready for the 3rd round of Texas high school football playoffs. Winners this week go on to the state semifinals next week. State quarters next week, not state semifinals. I'm getting all excited. Here. Those are my predictions. Those are the games. A lot of great teams. There's a few undefeated teams left. You get 2 undefeated teams. Scott, you get 2 undefeated teams against each other this week in Tompkins at 10-0 and North Shore at 12-0. Neither team has lost a game this season. Other undefeated, Spring 9-0, Bridgeland at 12-0, Tomball Memorial at 11-0, Fort Bend Marshall at 11-0. If Bridgeland wins and Tomball Memorial win, they face each other in the state quarters next week. So you'd have another undefeated. That'd be a lot of fun. That's a lot of talent on the field. So maybe Tomball Memorial will prove me wrong this week. Maybe they'll prove me wrong and they'll get into the state quarterfinals. Well, that do us for us from the VYPE Media Studios here in Houston, Texas. Scotty T, producer Joshua Koch. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, VYPE Texas. Go click that subscribe button. We're doing all this cool live stuff. What are you doing? VYPE, baby. High school sports is what we do. Sure to follow us on Twitter at VYPE Houston, our Instagram, VYPE Texas, Snapchat as well. We do it all across the board. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. We'll do this again next week. We'll keep it going. VYPE Blocker Talk live from Houston, Texas. A lot of fun. I got a lot of likes on there. I saw 11 of them. It's a lot of likes. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Great Christmas. Enjoy it. Enjoy family. Enjoy friends. Enjoy some Texas high school football. Big time playoff time in Texas. We do it big in Texas. Have a great week, everyone.